similar products.
They call a new school playing.
That in the hot we go carry
the hair go come and
got the smell.
Somebody's sad, you feel it.
I love you.
just a little. I love this.
Chop, they are already washed.
To a president. They depended on you.
What else can I do? Get a shower cover and dancers.
Watch these programs and more on NTA Entertainment. NTAE, your one-stop entertainment channel.
Drive in the rain.
It depends on the velocity of the rain.
Basically, it has to do with the joints, coupled up with the muscle pains and all that.
Arthritis in a layman's language is the inflammation of the joints of the body.
It is important to understand that following a bite by a female Anopheles mosquito, it will take 9 days for you to develop symptoms. It cannot happen within 2 days or 3 days, as some people would be afraid and they will be concerned about.
Me and my mom take breeze walk 2 or 3 times a week.
And how do you feel afterwards?
12, 13, 14.
Hello everyone and welcome to Your Health in Your Hands. I'm Dr. David Ajibade with the Brain and Body Foundation, and we are continuing our discussion from last week with Professor Anuma of the Department of Endocrinology, Professor of Clinical Medicine, and the coordinator for DFOOT in Nigeria. Thank you, Prof, for making the time again.
Thank you.
So we've talked about complications, we've talked about education in diabetes, we've talked about the problem of our lack of, shall we say, seriousness when it comes to these lifestyle diseases, hypertension, diabetes, another condition.
Musambo reports on the President's engagement on the second day of his invitational visit to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
It is a fact that there is no special place or special time to worship Allah, as a believer's entire life is one of worship. However, there are moments and days that the Creator has made more superior. Friday, the best day in the sight of Allah, is one of those times. For President Muhammadu Buhari and all those on his entourage, there is no better worshiping location than Rawda, in the heart of the Mosque of the Holy Prophet, which is also the center of the holy city of Medina. And Saudi authorities made this possible.
It's all part of what the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is doing to honor our president, to honor Mr. President, by having him have the best of the opportunities offered for worship in the Holy Mosque of the Holy Prophet in Medina and in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Congregational prayer performed here on this day and in the holy month of Ramadan holds special significance in the life of every Muslim faithful. In fact, scholars say prayers uttered in Rawda by the faithful are never rejected. And for President Muhammad Buhari, soon to be inaugurated for a second term of office, there is no better opportunity for prayers to Allah.
The President's focus are well thought out and well articulated. And all of the opportunities he has, he continues to focus on the well-being of the Nigerian nation, on issues of security that continue to challenge, the administration and the nation, and for God's intervention in all of these matters.
During the prayer session, the presiding imam not only delivered khutbah to empower the worshippers with valuable knowledge about Allah and the religion of Islam, but also offered special prayers for divine intervention in the darkness dilemma of life confronting mankind, especially the Muslim world. From Medina, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And back home in Abuja, the Supreme Court has struck out a case instituted by the Cross River State government against the federal government challenging the suspension of Justice Walter Onogen as the Chief Justice of Nigeria. The Supreme Court, in a majority decision, upheld the preliminary objection of the federal government that the Cross River State government had no locus to approach the apex court. Judiciary correspondent Femi Okewo reports.
As part of reactions to the suspension of Justice Walter Onogen from office as Chief Justice of Nigeria in January, the Cross River State government, where Justice Onogen hails from, approached the Supreme Court asking it to invoke its original jurisdiction to declare the suspension null and void. The Attorney General of the Federation filed a preliminary objection asking the Supreme Court to decline its use of the original jurisdiction, since this case does not fall into the provisions of Section 232 of the Constitution, which allows disputes between states and the federal government to be resolved by the apex court without going through the lower courts. In a 4-1 majority decision delivered by Justice Paul Galinje, the Supreme Court agreed with the federal government's preliminary objection and struck out the matter. The Supreme Court said the suspension of Justice Walter Onogen was not a dispute between the Cross River State government and the federal government, and as such denied the Supreme Court the jurisdiction to go into the substantive matter of determining the propriety of the suspension.
The legal right upon which the matter came from does not fall within the ambit of the Supreme Court, and we're happy that the Supreme Court has agreed with us and this case is struck out.
Once the majority judgment agreed with the federal government that the suspension of Justice Walter Onogen was not a dispute between the federal government and the Cross River State government, the majority judgment did not, therefore, have to go into the merit of the propriety of the suspension. But Justice Mary Odili, who dissented and said that the Cross River State government had the locus to approach the Supreme Court under the original jurisdiction of the Constitution, went into the merit of the matter and ruled that the suspension of Justice Walter Onogen was not valid. From the Supreme Court, Femi Okewo, NTA News.
Similarly, the Federal High Court in Abuja has struck out a suit filed by Legal Defense and Assistance Project seeking the removal of the Senate President Bukola Saraki, Speaker House of Representatives Yakubu Dogara, and 56 other senators and members of House of Representatives who defected before the 2019 general election from office on the grounds that the plaintiff lacks the local standing to institute the suit.
The presiding judge, Justice Okon Abang, noted that the action ought to have been instituted by the political parties that sponsored the lawmakers or the electorate. In the light of this, the court struck out the case for lacking merit. Justice Abang, however, held that it is an abuse of court process, joining Senator Godswill Akpabio in the matter since he was expelled from the PDP before moving to the APC. It is on the strength of this that the presiding judge dismissed the case.
The right of appeal lies with my client, the plaintiff, or our client, the plaintiff. It doesn't lie with us. It is our client. After guiding the client, if he feels aggrieved by the judgment of the court, he will now instruct us to appeal.
In another development, the Federal High Court has restrained the suspended chairman and presidential candidate of the African Action Congress, Omole Showore, from parading himself as the national chairman of the party. The court also prevented INEC from recognizing the suspended chairman, pending the determination of the motion on notice. Justice Iyang Ekwo equally ordered the deputy national chairman of the party, Malcolm Fabi, to stop parading himself in that capacity.
The order of courts in the Vanguard and Sun newspaper within 7 days. Now with this, the acting national chairman standing before me now is now acting in that state until the contrary is placed before the court.
In their affidavit to support the motion on notice, the party alleged that Showore and his deputy failed to fulfill the statutory requirement of holding the National Executive Committee meeting of the party quarterly as required.
A literary piece that will assist in molding and shaping the thoughts and dreams of the Nigerian child towards promoting national peace as well as efforts taken in tackling insurgency has been presented to the public in Abuja. This is in furtherance of efforts by the Nigerian Army to rid the nation of crime and criminality. Elizabeth Omori reports that the book is titled The Legend of Buratai, a memoir of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Buratai.
The presentation of the book is quite apt, following efforts to promote the reading culture of the Nigerian child and imparting knowledge through fiction. The 7-chapter and 90-page publication was skillfully written by Dr. Abubakar Sani to help primary and secondary school students appreciate General Tukur Buratai, one of Africa's infantry generals who has recorded immense success in combating insurgency in Nigeria. The legend of Buratai encapsulates the exemplary leadership, skills, commitment, and facts presented the Chief of Army Staff as an authority and a point of reference to students and generations to come when issues of counterterrorism is brought to the fore. The author of the book described the Army Chief as a fountain of knowledge with wealth of experience, which is evident in the operations of the Nigerian Army as the nation counters terrorism and other crimes.
His life summarizes this: diligence, hard work, excellence, probity, commitment, and patriotism to his fatherland.
There was a goodwill message from the Chief of Army Staff, who is on a national assignment, to the audience.
The nation has gone through thick and thin in her growth from infancy to maturity. What has kept the country going is the resolve to collectively strive to do our very best to protect the national interest.
Al-Hassan Abdullahi also delivered some poetic lines in appreciation of efforts to combat an insurgency in the northeast of Nigeria.
If you could listen to the silence of appreciation, you'd have to respect the humility of the Nigerian soldier.
The Legend of Buratai is recommended for all literary enthusiasts. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
It has been observed that the Nigerian Army is overstretched and underfunded despite its increasing internal security operations across the country. The House of Representatives Committee on Army made the observation during an oversight visit to army formations in Maiduguri, Borno State. Ismail Musa reports.
These are members of the House Committee on Army on oversight to Maiduguri, the control and command center of the ongoing counter-insurgency operations. Despite acknowledging improvement in funding under the present government, the Army is asking for more.
Equipment that is required is much. The work that is needed is much. The United Nations recommendation about personnel of the armed forces is ratio is about 10% of the population. What we have here is much lower than what is required.
We have told them too that they should find a way to bring other governmental support, not just only leaving the crisis or the problem to the military, to rally land the entire country so that it doesn't look like a military problem alone.
The increase in internal security threats has forced the army to be engaged in more secondary roles of internal security operations. At present, the fighting formation has different operations that span to about 30 states, while the non-kinetic efforts under the civil-military relations is spread across all states of the Federation. From Maiduguri, Borno State, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
The Nigerian Television Authority innovations introduced by the current management has continued to attract the attention of more groups and organizations. The latest body to acknowledge the reforms in NTA is the Committee of Deans of Engineering and Technology of Nigerian Universities. Francis Form has a report.
These are the representative of the larger Committee of the Deans of Engineering and Technology of the Nigerian Universities on a visit to the NTA. It is part of their efforts to improve the quality of engineering training and education in the country.
The NTA has started behaving like CNN and BBC, and in terms of inviting people, technocrats, to talk on different issues technically. Please keep it up. And since I'm saying now that you are like CNN or Al Jazeera, you should be more than Al Jazeera by 2020.
The Executive Director, Engineering, who represented the Director General of the NTA, acknowledged the strides being made in advancing engineering education in Nigeria.
NTA is the largest television network in Africa because of the transmitters. We transmit all over the world. Anywhere you are with your smartphone, you should be able to access NTA signals. Recently again, that is what we call video on demand. So any type of program you had transmitted that you really want to watch but you couldn't watch, you should be able to have access to that if you have a smartphone.
Stephen Okpanachi also suggested the review of engineering curriculum to meet the current needs of the industry. In Abuja, Francis Form, NTA News.
This is the news on NT International, reaching you from Abuja. We take a short break now. We shall be back with more news in just a moment.
You're a business owner or fresh graduate looking to learn new skills in line with your passion or business? Would you like to get a grant of 1 million naira to grow your business? How about interfacing with top government officials responsible for youth intervention programs? Would you like to meet with successful entrepreneurs who will offer you 12 months guided mentorship in your field, all for free? Then you need to be at the National Youth Entrepreneurship Empowerment Summit coming up on the 21st to 23rd of May 2019. Time is 9 a.m. daily. Venue is International Conference Center, Herbert Macaulay, Area 11, Abuja. Learn from the likes of Jimmy Tewe, Trisha Ikwanwombia, Ubong King, Kafi the Dancer, Kule Idowu, Frank Donga, George Okoro, and many others. Proudly supported by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, OSGF, the Tony Elumelu Foundation, the Jimmy Tewe Company, and Eventi Planners. Attendance is free, but registration is compulsory. Register at www.nyees.org.
The Nigerian Ports Authority hopes to partner the private sector towards the development of deep-sea ports and other joint venture arrangements for improved return on investment if its budgetary projections are approved by the National Assembly. This claim came to the fore when the Ports Authority briefed the House Committee on Ports, Harbour and Waterways on its 2018 budget performance. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The Economic Recovery Growth Plan and other structural reforms of the present administration that simulated economic activities are said to have impacted greatly on the performance of the Nigerian Ports Authority in 2018, which is why the management is focused on driving innovation for better performance in all its operations.
An increase in the number of ocean-going vessels calling at our ports and improved service boat operations expected to strengthen the authority's revenue generation during the year, and the cordial and collaborative relationship with stakeholders, especially relevant security agents and host communities, shall be sustained.
The Managing Director of National Inland Waterways Authority, NIWA, Senator Olorunumbe Mamora, while defending the authority's 2019 spending proposal, said plans are on to upscale the development of inland water transportation in Nigeria.
The recurrent budget constituted 40% and capital 60% of the total 2018 budget appropriation for implementation of both new and ongoing projects.
Budget is a law. You do not select and put all the money in convenient areas and then leave others.
Other agencies that appeared before the Committee for the Budget Defense were the Nigeria Shippers Council and the Council for the Regulation of Freight Forwarding in Nigeria. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
And for news from the financial sector, let's join Rachel Schreiber.
Welcome to Business News. The federal government has developed a 10-year development plan on cocoa with a view to enhancing production and processing of the cash crop. The country intends to generate an additional $200 million from cocoa production.
So building a cocoa processing zone means enhancing the economy of this country. Building a special zone for cocoa means value addition, means jobs, job creation, because cocoa has a large value chain.
In the meantime, the Securities and Exchange Commission has raised alarm over the activities of some online fraudsters who are currently running an online investment scheme tagged Loom Money Nigeria. The Acting Executive Commissioner, Operations, SEC, Isiaku Tilde, at a media briefing, cautioned that the Ponzi scheme investors are at risk. He said the fraudsters carry out their illegitimate business activity via social media platforms, thereby luring unsuspecting members of the public, and that the venture has no tangible business model. Let's see how the equities market fared this Friday. That's it on Business News. I am Rachel Shaibu. Enjoy the rest of the news.
The ECOWAS Commission says countries within the sub-region recorded appreciable economic growth when compared to 2017 and 2018 records. President of the Commission said this while giving an assessment report to the ECOWAS Parliament at the ongoing ordinary session in Abuja. Joseph Orok was there.
In line with the article for the establishment of ECOWAS and the recent enhancements of the powers of the parliaments, the ECOWAS Commission is statutorily to submit situation reports of the region to the ECOWAS Parliament for consideration and possible advice. It is based on this that the President of the ECOWAS Commission says important achievements has been made by the countries within the sub-region in the infrastructural development. He raised the concerns of the Commission on the rising cases of insecurity in most countries within the sub-region and stresses the urgent need for collaboration with the international community to combat the third trend for an enhanced peace and development of the sub-region. The President of the ECOWAS Commission announced that based on the number of countries that have ratified the African Free Trade Agreement, the African Continental Free Trade Zone will start next year.
The provisions for encouraging investment should be harmonized in our countries, and this is what the code is going to do to harmonize all the investment measures that will come into place.
Members of Parliament also raised questions and observations on the reports.
That it is very urgent that our member states should put aside their national egoism and concentrate on solidarity and unity for us to be able to have a single economic body. And I think objectively that we should really accelerate the process for us to start having the single currency.
In Abuja, Joseph Orok, NTA News.
Justin Bemunyi is standing by for news from other parts of the globe.
The Rwandan Investigation Bureau has paraded before the media a leading member of a rebel movement. Reports have it that Kaliste Nsambimana, popularly known as Sankara, who is a spokesperson for the National Liberation Front, FLN, appeared in public for the first time since he was captured in Comoros on 13 April and secretly handed to Rwandan authorities. Rwanda accuses Mr. Nsambimana of acts of terrorism, and he faces life imprisonment in line with the country's new law on terrorism. In another news, Kenya and South Africa have signed a memorandum of understanding that will provide a foundation for the introduction of the teaching of Swahili in the South African educational system. Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha signed the agreement on behalf of the government, while South Africa's Minister, Basic Education, Angelina Matsi Mochika, signed on behalf of her country. In another development, Facebook has banned an Israeli company it believes was behind hundreds of fake accounts, pages, and groups, mostly targeting elections in 6 African countries. The American social media company says the people behind the network of what it calls coordinated inauthentic behavior pretended to be locals in Angola, Niger, Nigeria, Senegal, Togo, and Tunisia. They posted frequently about political news such as elections and included candidate views and criticisms of political opponents. Justin Bemunyi, NTA News.
Kene Omabodike is standing by with sports updates.
Nigeria men's senior volleyball team vows to pick one of the 2 tickets at stake at the Zone 3 All-African Games qualifiers bid for May 17 to 25 in Abuja, Côte d'Ivoire. The 14-man team, which departed the country Thursday, led by coach Japheth Nuhu, boasts of 3 foreign-based players, including Uchenna Ofoha, Samuel Oguche, and Arinze Wachuku.
The best out of the team is out right now. We're not leaving any stone unturned. They've prepared us, and mentally we're ready.
Ogun State Governor Ibikunle Amosun has restated the commitment of the state towards sustaining the growth of sports in the state and beyond. Leko Abonde reports that the governor was speaking when he hosted the Ogun State-born mixed martial arts middleweight champion in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, Israel Adesanya at Oke Mosom.
I can assure you that all of us in the state, we are very, very proud of your achievements, very proud of your efforts. God will continue to be with you.
Like Nigerians, whenever we fight, we have this pizzazz about us. Like, we like to show off. We never shy of putting ourselves out there in case we fail.
Meanwhile, hostilities continue in the first phase 2019 National Premier Handball League at the Abuja National Stadium Velodrome, with all 22 teams set to go into the second round next week, having gone deep in the round robin.
The organizing and